The silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word.
Lenore?
This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word. No. Merely this, nothing more. Back into the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning. Soon again I heard a tapping somewhat louder than before.
Surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what thereat is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind, nothing more.
Open here I flung the shutter when, with many a flirt and flutter, in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mien of lord or lady, perched above my chamber door, perched upon a bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, perched and said, and nothing more. Then this ebony bird, beguiling my sad fancy into smiling by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance he wore.
Though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou art sure no craven, ghastly, grim, and ancient raven wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me, what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore.
Quoth the raven, Nevermore. Much I marveled this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevance he bore. For we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door, bird or beast upon the sculptured bust above his chamber door, with such a name as Nevermore. But the raven, sitting lonely on the placid bust, spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour. Nothing further than he uttered, not a feather then he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered.
Other friends have flown before. On the morrow you will leave me as my hopes have flown before.
The bird said, Nevermore.
Tell me of Monsieur Bonbon.
That Pierre Bonbon was a restaurateur of uncommon qualifications. That Pierre Bonbon was, in an equal degree, skilled in the philosophy of that period, is, I presume, still more especially undeniable.
His pâtés à la foie were beyond doubt immaculate, but what pen can do justice to his essays?
Sur la nature.
His thoughts.
Sur le mets.
His observations.
Sur l'esprit.
If his omelets, if his fricandeau were inestimable, what literature of that day would not have given twice as much for an idée de bonbon?
As for all the trash of idées of all the rest of the savants?
Bonbon had ransacked libraries which no other man had ransacked, had read more than any other would have entertained a notion of reading, had understood more than any other would have conceived the possibility of understanding.
Although, while he flourished, there were not wanting some authors of ruin to assert that his dicta evince neither the purity of the academy nor the depth of the lyceum.
Although, mark me, his doctrines were by no means very generally comprehended. Still, it did not follow that they were difficult of comprehension.
It was, I think, on account of their self-evidency that many persons were led to consider them abstruse. It is to Bonbon, but let this go no farther. It is to Bonbon that Kant himself is mainly indebted for his metaphysics.
You have spoken of the philosopher in his capacity of restaurateur. I would not, however, have any friend of mine imagine that, in fulfilling his hereditary duties in that line, our hero wanted a proper estimation of their dignity and importance.
Far from it.
It was impossible to say in which branch of his profession he took the greater pride. In his opinion, the powers of the intellect held intimate connection with the capabilities of the stomach. I'm not sure, indeed, that he greatly disagreed with the Chinese, who held that the soul lies in the abdomen.
The Greeks, at all events, were right, he thought, who employed the same words for the mind and the diaphragm.
By this I do not mean to insinuate a charge of gluttony, or indeed any other serious charge to the prejudice of the metaphysician.
If Pierre Bonbon had his failings...
What great man has not 1,000?
If Pierre Bonbon, I say, had his failings, they were failings of very little importance. Faults, indeed, which in other tempers have often been looked upon rather in the light of virtues.
One of these foibles, I should not have even mentioned it but for the remarkable prominency, the extreme alto relievo in which it jutted out from the plane of his general disposition, he could never let slip an opportunity of making a bargain.
Not that he was avaricious.
No, it was by no means necessary to the satisfaction of the philosopher that the bargain should be to his own proper advantage. Provided a trade could be effected, a trade of any kind, upon any terms, or under any circumstances, a triumphant smile was seen for many days thereafter to enlighten his countenance, and a knowing wink of the eye to give evidence of his sagacity.
Had this peculiarity not attracted observation, there would have been room for wonder indeed. Hints were thrown out of an exciting nature. Stories were told of perilous bargains made in a hurry and repented of at leisure, and instances were adduced of unaccountable capacities, vague longings, and unnatural inclinations implanted by the author of all evil for wise purposes of his own.
The philosopher had other weaknesses?
They are scarcely worthy of our serious examination.
For example?
There are few men of extraordinary profundity who are found wanting in an inclination for the bottle. Whether this inclination be an exciting cause, or rather a valid proof of such profundity, it is a nice thing to say. Bonbon, as far as I can learn, did not think the subject adapted to minute investigation, nor do I.
He would sport with a syllogism in sipping St. Pere, but unravel an argument over walled vineyards and upset a theory in a torrent of Chamberton. Well had it been if the same quick sense of propriety had attended him in the peddling propensity to which I have formerly alluded. But this was by no means the case.
Indeed, to say the truth, that trait of mind in the philosophic Bonbon did begin at length to assume a character of strange intensity and mysticism, and appeared deeply tinctured with the devil's sorcery of his favorite German studies.
So, would you say, to enter the little cafe in the cul-de-sac Lefebvre was to enter the sanctum of a man of genius?
At the time of our tale,
Bonbon was a man of genius. There was not a sous cuisinier in Rouen who could not have told you that Bonbon was a man of genius.
his very cat knew it, and forbore to whisk her tail in the presence of the man of genius. His large water dog was acquainted with the fact, and upon the approach of his master, betrayed his sense of inferiority by a sanctity of deportment, a debasement of the ears, and a dropping of the lower jaw not altogether unworthy of a dog.
It is, however, true that much of this habitual respect might have been attributed to the personal appearance of the metaphysician. A distinguished exterior will, I am constrained to say, have its weight even with a beast. It was impossible to behold the rotundity of his stomach without a sense of magnificence nearly bordering upon the sublime. In its size, both dogs and men must have seen a type of his acquirements. In its immensity, a fitting habitation for his immortal soul.
I have said that to enter the cafe in the cul-de-sac Lefebvre was to enter the sanctum of a man of genius. But then it was only the man of genius who could duly estimate the merits of the sanctum.
It was here, about 12 o'clock, one night during severe winter, that Pierre Bonbon...
After having listened for some time to the comments of his neighbors upon his singular propensity...
That Pierre Bonbon, I say, having turned us all out of his house, locked the door with an oath, and betook himself in no very pacific mood to the comforts of a leather-bottomed armchair and a fire of blazing kindling.
I'm in no hurry, Monsieur Bonbon.
The devil.
Very true.
Very true. What is very true? How came you here?
I was saying that I am not at all pushed for time, that the business upon which I took the liberty of calling is of no pressing importance. In short, that I can very well wait till you finished your exposition.
My exposition? There now. How do you know? How came you to understand that I was writing an exposition? Good God.
Hush! I see you know me, Bonbon.
Why, sir, to speak sincerely, I imagine I have some very faint idea of the remarkable honor.
Oh, yes, very well. Say no more. I see how it is.
Why, sir, your eyes.
Eyes? My dear Bonbon, eyes, did you say? Oh, I perceive. Those ridiculous prints, which are in circulation, have given you a false idea of my personal appearance. Eyes. True. Eyes, Pierre Bonbon, are very well in their proper place. That, you would say, is the head? Right, the head of a worm. To you, likewise, these optics are indispensable. Yet, I will convince you that my vision is more penetrating than your own. There's a cat I see in the corner. A pretty cat. Look at her. Observe her well. Now, Bonbon, do you behold the thoughts? The thoughts, I say. The ideas, the reflections which are being engendered in her pericranium? There it is, now. You do not. She is thinking. We admire the length of her tail and the profundity of her mind. She has just concluded that I am the most distinguished of ecclesiastics. And that you are the most superfluous of metaphysicians. Thus you see, I'm not altogether blind. But to one of my profession, the eyes you speak of would merely be an encumbrance, liable at any time to be put out by a toasting iron or a pitchfork. To you, I allow, these optical affairs are indispensable. My vision is the soul. A clever book, that of yours. Pierre, a clever book, that of yours, upon mine honor. It's a work after mine own heart. Your arrangement of the matter, I think, however, might be improved, and many of your notions remind me of Aristotle. That philosopher was one of my most intimate acquaintances. I liked him as much for his terrible ill temper as for his happy knack at making a blunder. There's only one solid truth in all that he has written, and for that, I gave him a hint out of pure compassion for his absurdity. I suppose, Pierre Bonbon, you know very well to what divine moral truth I'm alluding?
Cannot say that I...
Indeed! It was I who told Aristotle that by sneezing, men expelled superfluous ideas through the proboscis.
Which is undoubtedly the case.
And there was Plato, too, for whom I, at one time, felt all the affection of a friend. You knew Plato, Bonbon?
No.
I beg 1,000 pardons. He met me at Athens one day, in the Parthenon, and told me he was distressed for an idea. I bade him write down "O nuos estin auluos." He said that he would do so and went home while I stepped over to the pyramids. But my conscience smote me for having uttered a truth, even to aid a friend, and hastening back to Athens, I arrived behind the philosopher's chair as he was inditing the auluos. Giving the lambda a fillip with my finger, I turned it upside down, so the sentence now read "O nuos estin augos," and is, you perceive, the fundamental doctrine of his metaphysics.
Were you ever at Rome?
But once, Monsieur Bonbon, but once. There was a time when occurred an anarchy of 5 years, during which the Republic, bereft of all of its officers, had no magistracy besides the tribunes of the people. And these were not legally vested with any degree of executive power. At that time, Monsieur Bonbon, at that time, only I was in Rome. I have no earthly acquaintances, consequently, with any of its philosophy.
What do you think of Epicurus?
What do I think of whom? You surely cannot mean to find any fault with Epicurus. What do I think of Epicurus? Do you mean me, sir? I am Epicurus. I am the same philosopher who wrote each of the 300 treatises commemorated by Diogenes Laertes.
That's a lie.
Very well. Very well, sir. Very well indeed, sir.
That's a lie. That's a lie.
Well, have it your way. As I was saying, as I was observing a little while ago, there are some very outre notions in that book of yours, Monsieur Bonbon. What, for instance, do you mean by all that humbug about the soul? Pray, sir, what is the soul?
The soul is undoubtedly,
No, sir.
indubitably,
No.
indisputably, evidently,
No, sir.
incontrovertibly,
No, sir. No, sir.
and beyond all question,
No! The soul is no such thing.
then, pray, sir, what is it?
That is neither here nor there, Monsieur Bonbon. I have tasted, that is to say, I have known some very bad souls, and some, too, pretty good ones. There was the soul of Cratinus, passable. Aristophanes, racy. Plato, exquisite. Not your Plato, but Plato the comic poet. Your Plato would have turned the stomach of Cerberus. Ugh, let me see. There were Naevius, and Andronicus, and Plautus, and Terentius. Then there were Lucilius, and Catulus, and Naso, and Quintus Flaccus. Oh, dear Quinty, as I called him, when he sang the Seculare for my amusement, while I toasted him in pure good humor on a fork. But they want flavor, these Romans. One fat Greek is worth a dozen of them, and besides will keep, which cannot be said of a Roman. Let us taste your sauterne. I found that Horace tasted very much like Aristotle. You know I am fond of variety. Terentius I could not have told from Menander. Naso, to my astonishment, was Nicander in disguise. Virgilius had a strong twang of Theocritus, and Titus Livius was positively Polybius and no other. But if I have a penchant, Monsieur Bonbon, if I have a penchant, it is for a philosopher. Yet, let me tell you, sir, it is not every it is not every gentleman who knows how to choose a philosopher. Long ones are not good, and the best, if not carefully shelled, are apt to be a little rancid on account of all the gall.
Shelled?
Taken out of the carcass.
What do you think of a physician?
Don't mention them. Ugh, I've never tasted but one. That rascal Hippocrates. Smelt of asafoetida. Ugh. I caught a wretched cold washing him in the Styx. And after all, he gave me cholera morbus.
The wretch. The abortion of a pillbox.
After all, if a gentleman wishes to live, he must have more talents than one or two. And with us, a fat face is evidence of diplomacy.
How so?
Why, we're sometimes exceedingly pushed for provisions. You must know that. And in a climate as sultry as mine, it is frequently impossible to keep a spirit alive for more than 2 or 3 hours. And after death, unless pickled immediately, and a pickled spirit is not good. They will smell. You understand, huh? Putrefaction is always to be apprehended when souls are consigned to us in the usual way.
The good God! How do you manage?
I tell you what, Pierre Bonbon, we must have no more swearing. Well, there are several ways of managing. The most of us starve. Some put up with the pickle. For my part, I purchase my spirits Vuente Capore, in which case I find they keep very well.
But the body! The body!
The body. But what of the body? Oh, I perceive. Why, sir, the body is not at all affected by the transaction. I have made innumerable purchases of the kind in my day, and the parties never experienced any inconvenience. There was Cain and Nimrod, and Nero and Caligula, and Dionysius and Pisistratus, and 1,000 others who never knew what it was like to have a soul during the latter part of their lives. Yet, sir, these men adorned society. Why, isn't there a man now whom you know as well as I? Is he not in possession of all his faculties, mental and corporeal? Who writes a keener epigram? Who reasons more wittingly? Who... But stay, I have his agreement in my pocketbook.
In consideration of certain mental endowments which it is unnecessary to specify, and in further consideration of 1,000 louis d'or, I, being aged 1 year and 1 month, do hereby make over to the bearer of this agreement all my right, title, and appurtenance in the shadow called my soul. Signed, A.
Well, let us just say, a name which I do not feel justified in indicating more unequivocally. A clever fellow that, but like you, Monsieur Bonbon, he was mistaken about the soul. The soul, a shadow? Truly, the soul a shadow. Only think, a fricasseed shadow.
Only think of a fricasseed shadow. Only think of a fricasseed shadow. Now damn. If I would have been such a nincompoop, my soul, Mr.
Your soul, Monsieur Bonbon?
Yes, sir. My soul is...
What, sir?
No shadow, damn.
Did not mean to say.
Yes, sir, my soul is...
I did not
Yes, sir.
intend to assert.
My soul is peculiarly qualified for...
A what, sir?
Stew. Souffle. Fricassee.
Indeed.
Ragu and fricandeau. And see here, my good fellow, I'll let you have it. A bargain.
I couldn't think of such a thing. I'm supplied at the present. Have no funds on hand?
What?
Besides, it is very unhandsome of me
Sir.
to take advantage of your present disgusting and ungentlemanly situation.
Startled at the stillness broken by reply so aptly spoken.
Doubtless what it utters is its only stock in store, caught from some unhappy master whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster, till his songs one burden bore, till the dirges of his hope that melancholy burden bore. Nevermore.
But the raven still beguiling all my fancy into smiling. Straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of bird and bust and door. Then upon the velvet sinking, I betook myself to linking fancy unto fancy, thinking what this ominous bird of York, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of York meant in croaking Nevermore. This I said, engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing to foul whose fiery eyes now burned into my bosom's core. This and more I said, divining, with my head at ease reclining on the cushion's velvet lining that the lamplight gloated o'er, but whose velvet violet lining with lamplight gloating o'er, she shall crest Nevermore. Then, methought the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen censer, swung by seraphim whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor.
Wretch, thy God hath lent thee. By these angels he hath sent thee. Respite and nepenthe from thy memories of Lenore. Quaff, oh quaff this kind nepenthe, and forget this lost Lenore.
Quoth the raven, Nevermore.
Prophet, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, whether tempter sent or whether tempest tossed thee here ashore, desolate yet all undaunted, on this desert land enchanted, on this home by horror haunted. Tell me truly, I implore, is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore.
Quoth the raven,
Be that word our sign in parting, bird or fiend. Get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plume as a token of that lie thy soul has spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit thy bust above my door. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from off my door.
quoth